Today is Tuesday, March 29th. We'll tell you about President Biden's priorities for the next federal budget, including more money for the military and higher taxes for the rich. Also, a big international financial hub now in a new lockdown, how it could impact supply chain issues here in the U.S. Plus, a big national chain is cutting back on tobacco. New changes to boost diversity in the NFL. And an update about the slap heard around the world. What to know about Will Smith's apology after his Oscars outburst. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The White House released its multi-trillion-dollar budget proposal for 2023. To be clear, President Biden does not set the budget on his own, but his plan does give lawmakers a starting point to start negotiations in Congress. Eventually, they're the ones who will decide exactly where the money will go. So what's Biden requesting? For starters, the largest ever level of military spending. He also wants more money for law enforcement, education, public health, and housing, just to name a few of the sticking points. And even while he wants to increase government spending, he also wants to lower the nation's debt by more than $1 trillion over the next 10 years. So where would all that extra money come from? Well, Biden wants to raise taxes on businesses and the richest Americans. We're talking households that make more than $100 million a year. That's about 20,000 households in the U.S. Overall, Biden's budget proposal is worth $5.8 trillion. Now it's up to Congress to debate the details. Many Democrats have praised the plan, but already other top lawmakers have voiced concerns. For example, Senator Bernie Sanders says the U.S. does not need another big increase in the defense budget. But Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell says the increase in military funding is not enough. And he says there's too much of a hike in non-defense spending, like for the Environmental Protection Agency. Other Republicans are against the tax increases, saying they'll hurt economic growth. And some just think the budget as a whole is too big, so it might contribute to inflation. So it's probably going to be a while before Congress makes anything final. This week, a federal judge said former President Trump, more likely than not, committed a felony in an effort to block the 2020 election results. To be clear, Trump is not actually facing any charges right now, but that judge's ruling clears the way for related emails to be turned over to congressional investigators. That's really what the judge was weighing in on, the documents. So it could be a big breakthrough for the lawmakers looking into the Capitol riot. And as several news outlets report, the statement could put more pressure on the Justice Department to consider a more formal investigation into the former president and the people around him. At this point, the U.S. Attorney General will not say whether that kind of investigation is already happening. And Axios cites a former DOJ official who doubts the ruling will have any effect. Either way, the House Committee of mostly Democrats could end up making a formal request for an investigation since it can't file criminal charges itself. In response to this latest development, a Trump spokesperson told Axios the ruling is absurd and baseless. And he says it's an example of public officials putting politics ahead of the law. To be continued. Russian and Ukrainian negotiators are getting ready for another round of peace talks. And the Ukraine side is going in with some new offers. President Zelensky says his country is ready to talk about adopting a neutral stance as part of a peace deal. That would mean Ukraine would not be able to join NATO, as it had been requesting. Zelensky says he can also promise to keep Ukraine nuclear-free, and he's also open to compromising about the future of a region in eastern Ukraine that's been disputed territory between the Ukrainians and the Russians. But there are some things he won't budge on, like Ukraine's freedom. Western officials say either way, it does not look like Russia is willing to end this conflict peacefully. So far, Russian President Putin and his generals have not laid out any specific military goals or a timeline for ending this conflict. And President Putin has rejected President Zelensky's request for direct talks. One more thing we want to mention about this conflict, President Biden clarified something he said during his trip to Europe last week. He raised a lot of eyebrows when he spoke about Russian President Putin saying, quote, "This man cannot remain in power." But Biden now says that was just a personal expression of his outrage, and the U.S. does not actually have a strategy to force a regime change in Russia. To be continued. China's largest city is responding to a growing COVID-19 outbreak with another strict lockdown. This is actually China's biggest citywide lockdown since the pandemic started more than 2 years ago. And because it's happening in China's financial capital of Shanghai, there's concern this could take a toll on the global supply chain. A lot of exports come out of there. And a lockdown in a different Chinese city last year caused a huge backlog of shipping containers that jumbled up ocean traffic and sent freight costs soaring. There have been some other less impactful lockdowns since then as well. It likely won't be that bad this time around since Shanghai's port is staying open. And so are factories, just so long as employees never leave. They're supposed to work, live, and stay within their factory campus at all times. Even still, lockdowns are hitting warehouses and truckers, so delays are possible. At the same time, the lockdown there may actually mean record gas prices go down a little in the U.S. That's because China is the world's biggest oil importer. And since millions of people are going to be mostly confined to their homes for a while, they won't need as much. Overall, the international impact of the lockdown depends on how long it lasts. For now, it's expected to be short-lived, only lasting one more week. More news is coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor. Have you ever had something that actually gets better as you use it? Think good jeans that stretch to perfectly fit your body over time. Would you ever think sheets could be on that list? Well, Boll & Branch sheets are not just buttery, breathable, and comfortable. They also get softer with every wash. Really, I've already noticed the difference. And as someone who works odd hours and is a fairly new parent, I value my sleep when I can get it. I want those hours to be high quality, and Boll & Branch sheets help make that possible. There's nothing quite like getting into a freshly made bed to go to sleep after a long day, right? And it's that much better when you love your sheets, like I do, thanks to Boll & Branch. And get this, if you're ready to give them a try, Boll & Branch gives you a 30-night risk-free trial with free shipping and returns on all orders. Plus, the Newsworthy listeners get 15% off your first set of sheets when you use the promo code Newsworthy at bollandbranch.com. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND Branch, bollandbranch.com with the promo code Newsworthy. We have an update for you about that on-camera slap during the Oscars that's since gone viral. Will Smith publicly apologized to Chris Rock last night, and the Academy has now launched an investigation. So first, about the apology. In an Instagram post, Smith called his own behavior, quote, unacceptable and inexcusable. And while he noted that Chris Rock's joke about his wife's medical condition was, quote, too much for me to bear, he also admitted he was out of line. Remember, Chris Rock made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head during the Oscars ceremony Sunday night. She's been public about her struggle with the hair loss disorder alopecia. Well, Will Smith responded by going up on stage and hitting Rock, then cursing at him. And ever since, there's been a lot of talk and debate about who was in the wrong and why Will Smith has not faced any repercussions. Well, the Academy, which gives out the Oscars, condemned the actor's violence and said it's launching a formal review into Smith's actions. Plus, the Academy says it's exploring potential consequences. The New York Times cites sources who say the Academy debated pulling Smith from the theater right after the slap, but time was limited and stakeholders could not decide how to handle it. And while this could be one of the most talked about Oscar moments, it wasn't the most watched broadcast, not even close. The numbers are in, and this was the second least watched Oscars ever, right behind last year's award show. But we should note these ratings do not count streaming, which could make a big difference. The NFL is trying to improve its diversity by beefing up its Rooney Rule. In a nutshell, that's the league's rule that requires teams to interview a diverse range of candidates for coaching jobs or other positions. Well, yesterday, the league announced 2 changes to it. For starters, all 32 teams must actually hire a minority offensive assistant coach for this upcoming season. Also, women can now count toward filling the rule's requirement that clubs have to interview at least 2 minority candidates for coaching jobs or front office positions. Another thing changing, only in-person interviews will be allowed from now on. On top of the Rooney Rule changes, the NFL said it created a 6-person diversity advisory committee to review the league's diversity. These initiatives were put into hyperdrive after NFL coach Brian Flores filed a lawsuit against the league and 3 teams last month. He said the NFL's hiring practices were racist. Since then, the league's commissioner vowed to do better. For the second time in 2 years, Tesla wants to split its stock and shares are jumping. The electric car maker confirmed it yesterday, saying it plans on asking shareholders to okay the split. Basically, a stock split is where the company splits each existing share into new shares, making them more affordable. Though it doesn't change the value of the company right away. Tesla's only other stock split was back in August of 2020, and it was a 5-for-1 offering. But this time around, it's not clear what type of split Tesla would ask for. Still, after Tesla's announcement yesterday, the stock went up, And Tesla is not alone. Earlier this month, Amazon and Google's parent company Alphabet both announced they would split their stocks 20-for-1. The world's biggest retailer, Walmart, is quietly yanking cigarettes from some of its stores. The Wall Street Journal first reported the big box chain will stop sales at certain stores in Arkansas, California, Florida, and New Mexico. It's not clear how many locations are included. One company spokesperson told the Journal Walmart just wanted to use its space more efficiently. Although this move reportedly comes after years of internal debate about cigarettes, which U.S. health officials say are linked to nearly 500,000 American deaths every year. Walmart is not halting all of its tobacco sales, though, like Walmart competitor Target did when it stopped selling cigarettes nearly 3 decades ago, or when CVS quit back in 2014. Well, that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Trivia Tuesday, when we ask a different trivia question every week. But first, this podcast is sponsored by Rothy's. My newest pair of Rothy's shoes is the Point in Black, and they're such a staple that it's now clear to me why they are one of Rothy's best-selling shoes. In fact, People magazine named the Point the best flat for their first ever style awards in 2021. But Rothy's also makes super comfortable sneakers, loafers, ankle boots, and more. I have 3 pairs of Rothy's shoes now, and I've never had to break any of them in. I wear them right out of the box with no problems. And really, my oldest pair looks the same as my newest. They're that high quality and durable. Plus, I love that everything, yes, everything Rothy's makes is better for the planet. They've repurposed millions of water bottles into their signature thread that goes into every single one of their products. So every time I buy, I can feel really good about what I'm getting for myself and the company where I'm spending my money. So step up your shoes and accessories this spring and get ready to be asked, are those Rothy's? Plus, get $20 off your first purchase at rothys.com/newsworthy. That's ROTHYS, rothys.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Trivia Tuesday. Today's trivia question is, which country did bagels originate from? You can answer the question and play along with us on Instagram. Just find and follow us at NewsworthyPod and look for the trivia quiz in our Instagram stories today. As for last week's trivia question, which teenage girl helped drive the English from French soil in the 15th century? The answer is Joan of Arc. She's one of France's most prominent heroines. That's because even though she was only 17, she led a French army to victory over England in the 1400s. Some called her delusional, though, since she believed she was called by God to lead the troops. So here's how the story goes. Basically, Joan persuaded the Crown Prince of France to let her lead their troops to victory during what's now known as the 100 Years' War. Legend has it Joan knew details about the Crown Prince that no one else did, so he believed her claims that God had chosen her to lead. So with Joan leading, the French army took back the city of Orleans. And just a few months later, the Crown Prince was named King of France, so the King of England did not rule over France too. But soon after that, Joan was captured and killed at the age of 19. Then, more than 500 years later, in 1920, she was officially declared a Catholic saint. And to this day, Joan of Arc is still beloved by the French people. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. We'll be back with another news roundup tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.